the Jets 360 Live. Ethan Greenberg and Erik Allen here from MetLife Stadium for the 50th meeting between the Jets and Giants in the preseason. EA, this week, week 3, largely regarded as the final dress rehearsal for the regular season, which means that either Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, or Josh McCown is going to get a lot of runs with the ones.
Well, you're talking about quarterbacks. I got to talk about the most famous Jets quarterback of all time. Joe Namath is here, and you said this is the 50th installment of the Jets and Giants in the preseason. Well, that dates all the way back to 1969 after the Jets took down the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III. They played that game at the Yale Bowl, Greens, and no, I was not there. But the Jets did beat the Giants that night. But as far as the current situation is concerned, Todd Bowles said all week all 3 quarterbacks should be ready to play. With that being said, for a second consecutive week, Sam Darnold got the majority of reps in practice, not only overall, but with the first team. Last week, Darnold started, and Teddy Bridgewater got the entire second half. We'll have to see what happens. But if you're looking for keys, yeah, it looks like Darnold could be in line to make a second consecutive start.
So if Darnold is the guy under center for the Jets tonight, what do you want to see out of Darnold's play? Because he'll be going up against a Giants defense that theoretically will be playing at least a half.
There's not much to criticize about Darnold so far. You know, he said after the Redskins game, Greens, that maybe I missed a couple protections on that third down inside the red zone. He said maybe I should have fit it in a tight window to Jermaine Kearse. Then he looked back on that fourth down when Todd Bowles said, hey, that's on us. That wasn't a good play. Darnold said maybe I should have took a shot with Robbie Anderson on a post route. But as far as the Jets are concerned and Darnold in the passing game, maybe they can get some more plays down the field. Kept to mostly short passes against the Washington Redskins. And good news for Sam Darnold, he's going to have more weapons at his disposal tonight, Greens.
That's exactly what I was going to say next. Quincy Enunwa could make his preseason debut. He could make his debut on a football field since January 1st, 2017. That's week 17 of the 2016 season. And then we'll see if Terrell Pryor will play tonight. Todd Bowles said that those 2 guys will be game-time decisions. They'll warm up like they did last week in Washington, and then they'll go from there. But not only as a receiver at the tight end spot, this is one of the most competitive units on this team come Cuts Day, and all 5 of them will be healthy.
All right, Greens, I got to call you out and Tony Mancuso, because upstairs in the press box, Tony takes care of our website for us at the New York Jets. You guys were watching the wrong end of the field. You were enamored with Odell Beckham going up with some one-handed catches. I caught ear of that, but opposite end zone, Terrell Pryor had a couple one-handed catches himself. Both of those guys, Pryor and Enunwa, have taken team reps throughout the last couple weeks. We've seen their workloads increase. Enunwa has fresh legs. In fact, the other day in the media tent, Greens, you were there. Guy said, I feel amazing. Don't I look amazing? That's the way I feel. So I think Q is itching to get back out there on the football field.
If you look good, you feel good, you play good. Hopefully that's the same for Quincy Enunwa. I want to talk about Terrell Pryor for a second because he's someone that hasn't been in a game in a long time, too. He went on IR last season about week 9 with a foot injury. Then he hurt his ankle in the spring. He's recovering from that. Terrell Pryor, if healthy, I think could be a real X factor for this team because he's the tallest receiver of the bunch right now. I mean, he's a monster on the field. You see it. He's made a couple great catches, and he's got the speed to match. So what do you think Terrell Pryor could add to this offense with a receiving core like Robbie Anderson, Jermaine Kearse, and the return of someone like Quincy Enunwa?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think Pryor could become a red zone weapon for this team. Because like you mentioned, he's got something you just can't teach. He's got size. He's got a lot of mismatches, the potential to have a lot of mismatches on the outside, inside the red zone, where you throw it up, you got one-on-one coverage, and Terrell Pryor can go up and get it. He's more of a long strider, so more of a speed guy than a short area quickness guy. I think that's fair to say. But down the field in one-on-one situations, you take your chances when you have a guy like Pryor. So hopefully he'll get in the lineup today. and tonight. And like I said before, Greens, that's one thing maybe the Jets will try tonight is get a couple more plays down the field.
Well, let's keep it on the theme of debuts here because rookie tight end Chris Herndon is also in line to make his debut. And if Darnold is the guy under center tonight, he loves his tight ends. Throughout training camp, he's been hitting Clive Walford, Jordan Leggett, Neil Sterling, Erik Tomlinson. And tonight, Chris Herndon might be in the mix also.
4th round pick out of Miami. He's impressed a lot of people out there in the practice field because he's explosive outside, out of his breaks. He runs routes really crisp. He's a fine route runner, and he's got the total package because he can block as well. He's a versatile performer. The only thing about Herndon that you could criticize, and it's not a criticism, is that he hasn't been able to get out there on the field so far in preseason action. But I asked Todd Bowles about it this week. He said he just has to get on the field. He will be on the field tonight. And you asked him about it, I think, but Herndon already has a good relationship with Sam Darnold, part of that draft class together. And like you mentioned, listen, Sam Darnold loves his tight ends. That's something you've seen on the practice field. Now you just want to see it carry over in gameplay. This is the first time in preseason action where the Jets will have all 5 of their tight ends up and ready to go. And not only Herndon, keep an eye on Jordan Leggett, wearing number 86. He's got some fine hands. Productive player out of Clemson, went down in the preseason last year against the Detroit Lions. He showed some things on the practice field as well. Let's see what he can do out here.
Earlier this week, we had a couple visitors at Jets training camp, but one of the guys that showed up is Jets safety, or former Jets safety, should I say, Erik Coleman. Olivia Landis caught up with him, so let's take a look at what he had to say about this Jets team.
Olivia Landis joined by Erik Coleman, former safety for the New York Jets. Erik, you have a new role this year. You're going to be joining Eric Allen on Inside the Jets. How are you expecting that to go, and how excited are you to join Eric Allen?
I think it's going to be great. I'm very excited to join Eric, talk about the Jets game, break everything down from my perspective, interview some players. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
A big preseason game for the Jets against the Giants. Back when you were a player, what was this rivalry like?
Well, it's always that rivalry. It's New York versus New York. Who runs New York? That's the battle. And this is a game, the 3rd preseason game. Everyone knows that the starters are going to play into the second half. Everyone knows that it's going to be more competitive. And it's a snapshot of what your season's going to look like. So everyone gets excited. You put in game plans all week. You get to come out here and execute and show the world what's going to be in store for the season.
How should rookies, especially people like Sam Darnold, approach a game like this as opposed to other preseason games?
Oh, they should take it as if it's a regular season game. There's the game planning. There's the preparation. You watch the film. There's a lot that goes into this game. You're going to go out there, get hit, run around, fly around, and give yourself an opportunity to make a team. So it's an exciting game, the 3rd preseason game, and I'm looking forward to see how the Jets play.
Marcus May and Jamal Adams here into their 2nd season. How are you expecting them to play, and what do they need to do to really step up and make that leadership on the team?
Well, I'm excited, for Marcus to play. Marcus has been, dealing with some injuries, and for him to come out here and play with Jamal, I know they have that bond from being drafted together, playing all 16 games together last season. I'm sure they're anticipating working with each other, going out there making some plays. But, when I think about year 2 for these guys, I expect a lot more splash plays, interceptions, forced fumbles. You had a year to study the game, get a better understanding for it, and get a better understanding of each other. So I think that they're going to make a lot of plays this year, and the Jets fans are in store for a treat back there.
Welcome back to Jets 360 Live. Ethan Greenberg and Eric Allen here at the field for the MetLife Bowl, the 3rd week of the preseason.
What did you think about Erik Coleman's shirt, huh?
It was an interesting choice considering it was a hot day. And I know you want to mention the fact that his biceps are still in his mid-season form.
I'm jealous. Listen, he's a sharp dresser. I don't know if I could have pulled that shirt off.
I don't think that Garb should be on the sideline for training camp, but he said that he had something to do earlier that day. He was in meetings, so we'll cut him some slack. How about that? Is that all right?
No, I love you, Coles. I'm just saying I couldn't have pulled that off.
And
whenever he has like a short sleeve collared shirt on, oh my God, watch out, man.
Aren't you going to be seeing a lot more of Erik Coleman on Inside the Jets?
Erik Coleman is co-hosting Inside the Jets with me this year at Vanderbilt's, right across the street in Florham Park, across the street from One Jets Drive. Look at there are the quarterbacks right now, huddling up before they come out against the New York Giants.
Well, I want to talk about the O-line. We talked about the quarterbacks. Might as well talk about the people in front of the quarterbacks.
Okay.
Last week, they were down 2/5 of their starting line. Calvin Beachum was out. Brian Winters was out. What does that mean? Brent Quale started and Jonathan Harrison started. A lot of fans were thinking, oh, my God, what's this line looking like? And I know that you weren't happy about that because EA is going to say, relax. 2/5 were out. Calvin Beachum and Brian Winters. We'll see if they play today. Brian Winters should play. He's been practicing all week. We'll see about Beachum. But you're saying, relax. Don't worry about it.
Well, listen, Harrison, he got beat on one play. Overall, I think he's had a good camp. He's been running with the twos at the center position. I think those are valuable reps. At left tackle, Brent Quale becomes the guy because Benai Jalana is on injury reserve. I don't anticipate Beachum going to play tonight because Todd Bowles said during the week, we're probably taking a little bit slower with Calvin Beachum. So as far as the starting lineup, you're probably going to have 4/5 of your regulars in there. Keep in mind, Greens, as you know so well, you want all the guys ready to go week one. You don't want Calvin Beachum to go back too soon, and then he has a setback, and then he's not able to play in the Dome week one against the Detroit Lions when you're possibly starting a rookie starting quarterback.
Well, let me ask you this then. How big of a deal is it, theoretically, if Beachum sits out today and let's say the 4th preseason game against the Eagles next Thursday, how important is it for this offensive line? Like, is that a problem, do you think?
No, like I said, you have confidence in Quale, and then you're going to get a long look at him. And that's what I think, that's the deal in the preseason, is that you're going to get a long look at all these guys. Tonight, Greens, we should mention that the starters are going to be in the lineup for at least a half, and Todd Bowles said some of those guys are going to work into the third quarter as well. So whoever's out there, I would anticipate they're going to finish the first half, and then maybe they'll get a series in the second half.
Well, here's a little more food for thought. This isn't breaking news by any means, considering it is literally happening on the field behind us. Sam Darnold is taking snaps right now from Spencer Long, Teddy Bridgewater from Travis Swanson, and Josh McCown from Jonathan Harrison. So we'll see what that means in about 45 minutes or so. Let's switch to the defense here for a minute, because we talked about the offense, we talked about the O-line. The defense is supposed to be the strength of this team. New Jack City, the secondary, one of the finer units in the league. This is the first time this preseason that maybe all 4 starters on the secondary will receive playing time together on the field because of the return of Marcus May.
Well, I think we got the split screen going right now. You got a few of the guys huddling up. I believe that's the receivers. You've seen Ardarius Stewart, Charles Johnson and company. They're all coming together before they come out for warm-ups. The offense heading into the field first, and here comes Stu, Jordan Leggett, Isaiah Crowell, Robbie Anderson, everybody exiting out, Bilal Powell as well. But we talked defense there for a second. You want to see that secondary together, all the starters, and tonight you have an opportunity to see maybe Marcus May shake off some of the rust, and he could be in the starting lineup. As Todd Bowles said, hey, it's important that he gets out there. He needs the plays. So I consider it, you got 5 starters in the defensive backfield because Buster Skrine, to me, is a starter as well. But this Jets secondary is really poised to take the next step this year. I hope Odell Beckham plays.
Yes,
because
agreed.
I want to see the Jets get challenged by one of the top talents in the National Football League. As it is, the Giants have some good, skilled position players.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Odell Beckham is clearly one of the best receivers in the league. Not just Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, another weapon for the Giants, Evan Ingram at tight end. Saquon Barkley, I don't believe is going to play tonight, right?
No, probably. He's pretty cautious with the hamstring.
So we'll see who lines up there for the Giants. But regardless, this is going to be a great test for this Jets defense. I mean, don't sleep on Eli Manning either, considering he's won 2 Super Bowls. He knows what it takes to get these guys to the promised land. So this is going to be a good test for this Jets defense. We talked about Evan Ingram for a second, or I mentioned him. I want to talk about who he'll line up against, because last year we saw Jamal Adams and Evan Ingram one-on-one in the end zone. Jamal punched the ball out of the air, a little SEC battle, but theoretically throughout the game, Evan Ingram's going to see a lot of Darren Lee. So I want to talk about how big of a game is this for Darren Lee going up against the ones of the Giants, going up against, playing with the first team for for the majority of a half, maybe even a little bit into the second half.
I'm going to go even up front, in front of the linebackers, and talk about the defensive line. I wrote about this on NewYorkJets.com today as far as a position group that I'm targeting. How about the defensive line? The Jets were just 24th in the National Football League against the rush in 2017. If they can stop the run this year and win the battle in the trenches, that's going to allow Todd Bowles and Casey Rogers to come up with a lot of different schemes employing their defensive backs. The Jets have the luxury of having a lot of defensive backs who can play man coverage greens, and Jamal Adams is a Swiss Army knife because not only can he play in coverage, you can use him up there as an extra linebacker. If the Jets are able to win the line of scrimmage this year, this defense is poised to take the next step. And I talked to Albert Breer about this week. There are some cornerstones on the Jets defense. Adams, May. You want Lee to take the next step. And, of course, Leonard Williams. Well,
let's talk about the defensive line. You wrote about it earlier today. A different unit than what most Jets fans are used to down low. But this unit, this is going to be a good test for them, too. We keep saying good test, good test. Well, this is the final dress rehearsal before the regular season. And with guys like Nathan Shepard, the third-round pick out of Fort Hays State, how is he going to perform against another rookie, Will Hernandez, for the New York Giants? At the Senior Bowl, those two went at it, and Shepard won. We'll see what happens there, but what do you expect out of the defensive line against the Giants?
Well, you mentioned Hernandez. How about Nate Solder? Is he in the lineup tonight? Because the Giants put a lot of resources into that left side of the offensive line, But the Jets' defensive line is totally rebuilt right now. You talk about Shepard, he's running with the ones. You talk about Mike Padal, Steve McClendon hasn't been practicing the last couple of weeks, so you would anticipate Mike Padal, big number 98 in the starting lineup. And then rotational players who are going to be valuable for the Jets are Forlunzo Fatukasi, the 6th-round pick out of Connecticut, of course, and then Henry Anderson, who Mike McKagan traded his 7th-round pick for, a guy who you wrote in the story this week about the Jets like his maybe finesse as far as the pass rush are concerned, right? Didn't Leo say that?
Leo said that Henry Anderson's more of a finesse guy and that Nathan Shepard's more of a power guy. Well, listen here, is that it's not often you have a Hall of Famer in the building or access to a Hall of Famer. So what happened is that earlier today at MetLife Stadium, Olivia Landis caught up with LaDainian Tomlinson. They spoke about the Jets running game.
Reporting from MetLife Stadium, I'm Olivia Landis, joined by Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson. LaDainian, what brings you back to MetLife here for this Jets and Giants matchup?
Well, I was in the area promoting this new movie that I have coming out, God Bless the Broken Road. It's coming out September 7th. And, you know, it was the perfect timing for the Jets and Giants game. So what better way to come to the game, do some more promotions here, but check out a great game tonight.
So you go from running back to actor. How did that fall into your lap?
Well, really it was God's plan, to be honest with you. I know the movie is called God Bless the Broken Road, but, you know, it really was God's plan. A gentleman that I've known for a long time, he's an executive producer for the film, and he called me up one day out the blue when they were casting and said he's looking for a pastor, and he thought I'd work perfectly for the role. And, you know, at first I thought he was playing, but we kept talking, and he sent me the script, and I agreed to do it, and here we are.
So, LaDainian, you work for NFL Network now, and you've been able to analyze this Jets team throughout the preseason. What are some standouts that have caught your eye so far?
Well, the one thing I think that this team has more than anything is a solid coaching staff. They're you know, Todd Bowles and his staff does a great job of coaching these guys. And then I think defense is actually the strength of this team, especially the defensive line. They'll run the ball just fine, you know, and they'll you know, I think, really surprise some people with a young quarterback.
For a young quarterback like Sam Darnold, what is one of the most important things to take away from the preseason?
Well, I think just really getting your feet up under you, understanding the speed of the game, throws that you can make, when guys are open or seem to be open. It's all about timing and rhythm, when you're in the National Football League. The ball has to come out of your hands. And so those things he has to just get a feel for. He has to play the game to understand it. And those are the things that he's getting right now in preseason.
LaDainian, with positional groups like the running back, Eli McGuire out for a while with an injury, how can players like Isaiah Crowell really step up and play a larger role and help Sam Darnold?
Yeah, Isaiah Crowell is a pro. He's been in this league for a number of years now. He's carried the mail before, but he also has Bilal Powell. Now, let's don't forget about Bilal. Bilal is a triple threat. He can do it all. And so both of those guys together, I'm sure, will be able to help Sam Darnold out.
Well, thanks, and congrats on your movie.
Thank you.
Ethan Greenberg and Erik Allen here on the field at MetLife Stadium for the MetLife Bowl in Week 3 of the preseason. LaDainian Tomlinson talked about it a little bit. How much of a benefit or how much help could Bilal Powell provide a rookie quarterback like Sam Darnold if he gets a nod Week 1?
Big time. Bilal Powell's at the Fountain of Youth. Guy's going to be 30 this year, and you'd think he was 25. He's the longest tenured New York Jet. Bilal Powell just comes out and produces each and every year. And I like the pieces the Jets have in the offensive backfield right now. Because Powell is a guy who can run it between the tackles. He can get to the edge. He's also effective as far as being a pass receiver, and he's a great blocker. You add a guy like Isaiah Crowell to the mix, you got some depth here as well in the offensive backfield. And Jeremy Bates has a lot of options for the Jets.
I like this Jets running back room because you talked about Powell. Isaiah Crowell, to me, was very impressive in Week 1 against the Falcons. He suffered a head injury then, didn't play against the Redskins in Week 2. But you saw what the Jets liked in Isaiah Crowell against the Falcons. His receiving ability, he scored on a 16-yard catch and run, punched it in the end zone with his thumping ability. And that's really what his reputation is as a runner, as a thumper.
We just got to watch his head because, unfortunately, he was out for a week after that.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I think you saw what the Jets liked as a receiver and as a rusher.
He's got better hands than advertised. Let's put it that way. Corral, we knew he was a bruiser. We knew he could help this team potentially out in short yardage situations. What I didn't know, even though he had 40-plus catches 2 years ago with the Cleveland Browns, is how natural it looks for him, Greens, as far as receiving out of the backfield. So you pair him up with Bilal Powell. I like the 1-2 punch, or 1A, 1B, or 1A, 1A.
1A, 1A. That's a new one. I like it.
How do you like that?
I do like it. Let's go to the guys behind him now. Eli McGuire hurt, fractured foot in the beginning of training camp. I want to talk about Trenton Cannon because maybe tonight's the night that the cannon is shot, or he shoots out of the cannon. Trenton shoots out of the cannon.
Okay.
There it was. You saw my mind working. Now you have it. Because Trenton Cannon has speed. You know that. And we've seen it throughout training camp. And obviously he's going to have a special teams role with the green and white. But what about as a runner? What have you seen from Trenton Cannon that has you optimistic about his ability out of the backfield?
His vision's getting better every day. You've seen the same thing I have. We knew he had good speed. Those first couple days at camp, I thought he was just going. He was taking that ball and he was just going and not necessarily being patient, using his eyes. But as time has progressed, you're seeing him understand the blocking schemes up front, picking the holes, because that's what you have to do in this blocking scheme. What the Jets are going to try to do is get the defenses moving laterally. So sometimes you got to be patient and then explode through the hole. Cannon might get some opportunities in return game tonight too, Greens. I know he's working as a punt returner again this week at practice. Brant Boyer, Jets special teams coordinator, said he's going to get it. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You know it. At Virginia State, he was an explosive kickoff returner, a threat to go to the distance at any point. Now let's see if he can handle some punts under the bright lights. Guy who's not dressing for the Jets tonight, who gave them some pop in the return game last week, Lucky Whitehead. So it's tough break for Lucky.
Harry Nickerson, the rookie out of Tulane, 6th-round pick, also not dressed tonight. Real quick, before we wrap up here, EA, third preseason game. Who are you excited to see under the lights of MetLife Stadium in the MetLife Bowl?
Well, everybody, listen, I'm not going to bury the lead. You got to talk about the quarterbacks. What's next for Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater? They both completed more than 70% of their passes. If Darnold gets to go tonight, he'll probably play at least a half. So, of course, we're all going to be watching that. But deep down, let's look at the depth guys, too. Who is playing on special teams tonight? Who is battling to make this team? Trey McBride, what is he going to do here against the New York Giants? What about a guy like Neville Hewitt? He's had a great camp. Outside linebacker Brandon Copeland. I'm excited for this. Our producer, Chris Ubbins, is telling me I got to wrap it, so I'm disappointed about that. I could go live all night.
EA would give you what to look for all 90 if we had the time to do it. Unfortunately, we do not.
And what about the kicking game? We didn't mention the kicking game. Are you going to say something about that?
I was going to say you got to make sure to watch out for the kickers because the Jets released Cairo Santos earlier this week. That means Taylor Bertolette, who hasn't missed a kick this preseason for the Jets, and Jason Myers are battling it out over the next 2 weeks. That's all we have here from the field at MetLife Stadium. Again, kickoff around the corner. Jets-Giants in the MetLife Bowl. For Erik Allen, I'm Ethan Greenberg.